Hello, so today we're going to be examining and evaluating the role of microcredit. Now, microcredit is a very controversial subject and is all over the news, and therefore is a very popular topic in the IB syllabus for your IAs. It comes up regularly in paper 2 and also in the A-level syllabus. You can see microcredit coming up again and again. So, microcredit, the definition of microcredit is very small amounts of lending or loans for short periods of time to poor people who have little or no access to credit. Okay. Now, example of micro enterprises that would take advantage of microcredit could be carpenters, street vendors, street food vendors, seamstresses, knitting products, clothing, bicycle shops, bicycle repair. Many of these kind of small, very small scale, maybe single person industries. Now, the first microcredit scheme began in the 1970s. It was initiated by Muhammad Yunus of Bangladesh, who received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for his contribution to economic development. Okay, so with the Nobel Peace Prize, you can see that this scheme is seen as being very, very powerful in the economic development or the modern economic development of many nations. And there's a number of reasons for that. So we'll have a little look about why microcredit is so popular and the pros of microcredit. So first of all, many countries face the poverty cycle or the poverty trap, which can be seen here. Now, the poverty cycle is when low income leads to low savings. Low savings, of course, leads to low investment. Low investment then leads to low growth, which then leads to low income. So with the introduction of microcredits, there is a possibility or a potential that you can break the poverty cycle by increasing income and increasing investment, leading to an increase in growth. Now, the diagram we can use for that, or there's two diagrams we can use for that, is the PPC, which shows a shift in the production possibilities curve to the right, showing more production of capital goods and consumer goods, therefore an increase in economic growth. Furthermore, we can show this in the long-run aggregate supply curve, which again shifts to the right, showing an increase in employment, increase in wages, and economic growth. So the way that microcredit achieves this is by helping poor and unemployed people become self-employed in small businesses. Now, this loan may be given to people to buy, let's say, if it's a street vendor, it will be buying a new cart or a new stove. If it's a seamstress, it may be to buy a brand new sewing machine. And carpenters, maybe tools or materials, and that will help their business start up. Okay, so and another key pro for this, and the reason why it's successful, is that it's not necessary to provide collateral to obtain one of these loans. Now, if you go to a bank and get a loan, often you have to offer up some kind of collateral as a guarantee for the bank. Some people often put up their house or their car as collateral for that loan. Now, another good thing about microcredit is that the borrowers are often women who have proven to have the highest repayment rates, and they often use their business income to provide for the well-being of their children and family, creating positive externalities on the whole economy. And it also certainly helps the empowerment and social status of women in the economy. Now, microcredit also plays a key role in poverty reduction, as it leads to stable incomes. When we looked at the poverty cycle before, it leads to higher and more stable incomes over time. Okay, so that's basically the first few reasons why microcredit is very important and the pros for microcredit. Okay, so there are a number of people who started to criticize microcredit in the last few years, and we'll have a look at some of those right now. So first of all is the availability of microcredit. There are far few microcredit schemes to cover the needs of the billions of poor in the world. And also there's only a very small proportion of poor people who benefit from these loans. And also that brings up a reason like, is that money used effectively? Because in many of these countries there is a lack of education. So micro entrepreneurs have limited skills, qualifications, and exposure to handling a business. Hence, they may borrow more money than needed and then misallocate it in their business. They may buy consumer goods instead of buying capital goods. And then they end up bearing the brunt of large interest payments for not succeeding. And this would be a key negative point about microcredits. And the next point is that there may be a risk that microcredit schemes may be used as a substitute for badly needed government policy reduction policies. Now, what I mean by that is that microcredit schemes may be used as kind of like a propaganda tool by the government to say, well, we have introduced this kind of scheme instead of providing direct aid to people in need. The next point is that many microcredit borrowers end up working in the urban informal sector, okay? And that means that working in that sector, they have very little social protection, so that if they lose their job, then they have there's no welfare state or no safety net for them. So they will just essentially lose everything. And related to that, as microcredit has very high interest rates often, which are necessary to cover the high risk of giving out the loans, and the administration costs, of course, they may end up penalising very poor people who are already struggling to earn a decent income. Now, that's led to some people or some commentators arguing that microcredit is just another word for loan sharks, which are people who take advantage of the poor by charging very, very high rates of interest on unofficial or illegal loans. And finally, and most importantly, is that excessive borrowing can often lead to a debt trap, which means the debt trap is where to repay a loan, you have to borrow even more. And then to repay that loan, you have to borrow even more. That's like taking out a credit card to pay off another credit card, to pay off another credit card, to pay off another credit card. Okay, and it's been argued, and there has been cases where microcredit has led to this unfortunate situation. However, overall, I think that microcredit is widely seen as a very positive thing in terms of the empowerment of women and increasing incomes in many, many areas of, in particular, Africa and India, where there is no access to banks, and banks are not willing to take the risk on very poor people with low incomes. So there's some key pros, some key cons there. I'd like you to remember all of these because they're very, very important for when you take the exam or when you do your IA. Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a quick rundown of microcredits. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.